What's cracking, ladies and gentlemen? 49 coming here, another community shoutcast for the Korean Dota League Season 3. We're just about to load into Zephyr Dota up against Team Pokerface in the Best of 1 series. This is a replay cast, so it's a little bit different from the way I usually do things. I'm used to live casting, so do forgive me if I do make any mistakes. I haven't seen this game before, actually. I haven't seen Zephyr Dota or Pokerface play against each other at all. So it'll be a learning experience for both of us, but from what I hear, Zephyr Dota, I can recognize a few of their names. Sexy Bambo used to be a player for the Dota commentaries team alongside with Luminous, who I believe was their support standard. And so we'll go select no broadcaster. And Team Pokerface, they're one of Korea's best teams. I believe I recognize Jesus Stick from last time I watched Korean Dota about a year ago, back when the scenes first started off. But we've already got a Doombringer ban coming out from Zephyr Dota. And so Doombringer, very powerful ban. He's usually banned out the first banning stage because he provides such a huge amount of utility in the offlane. Since the ideal offlaner is a hero that's difficult to dislodge from lane, will be able to find golden experience in any shape or form, and if you're, for whatever reason, if you're able to shut him down, can recover. And so Doombringer meets all these criteria, since if he starts off with boots and if he goes full Scorched Earth at 1, very difficult to bring him down, even though he's got 0 base armor. He's got enough survivability from the Scorched Earth regen and movement speed to be able to maneuver him back out of range. He's got the Devour to ensure that he'll maintain some kind of golden and EXP parity. And if Doombringer is left unchecked, and if the supports rotate away and leave him alone against that carry, you can actually find a huge amount of farm. And Doombringer, you usually want to pick up utility items up on him. Doombringer works best as an anti-carry, because once the Blink Dagger comes online, you doom their priority target. So in this case, you want to doom either their carry if they're running for a full Protect 1 strat, or if they only have a single core, or otherwise you want to be banning out heroes that carry the mech. And so we've also got a Razor and a Faceless Void ban coming up from Team Pokerface. And so Faceless Void, very similar to Doombringer, you ban him out because he's so difficult to deal with, unless you have a very kill-heavy tri-lane. So if you've got two supports that have a way to negate the time walk, so for instance Disruptor works very well because you could glimpse him back after he time walks out, or if you could lock him down and kill him within the lockdown duration, then Faceless Void falls apart, but he excels against soft tri-lanes. So tri-lanes where you don't have a huge amount of hard CC, and because Faceless Void with the Chronosphere sets up so many of the heroes, he gives you a huge amount of flexibility for the drafter, because the opposing team, they're forced to pick up heroes to counteract the Void, and so you want to pick up contingency heroes such as the Shadow Demon or the Dazzles who support heroes, so you can utilize the Disrupt when he catches the rest of his team out in the Chronosphere. It means that if you don't catch out the Shadow Demon, he can disrupt whoever you go on. Since Faceless Void, his one objective, if you're playing him that offlane role, is to land Chrono, kill target in Chrono. If you do that, you start a fight 4v5, you're good to go. You've already a huge step towards winning that team fight, as you've got the 4v5 numerical advantage, and Faceless Void hits very hard, even with just the Mask of Madness, because of how powerful Time Lock is. We've also got a Shadow Shaman ban coming out from Zephyr Dota, and Shadow Shaman alongside with Skywrath Mage, the two most powerful support heroes in the current metagame, because Shadow Shaman, while a very greedy support hero like Skywrath Mage, provides you a massive amount of utility and damage at all stages of the game. At level 1, if you want to play very aggressively, a lot of teams like to go for boots first in the Shadow Shaman, delegating the support items to their other 5 position player. In which case, the Shadow Shaman will boots first and shackle up. He could set up ganks at level 1. So 2.5 second hex, disable that you could use to be able to lock out any other hero. So you could rotate with the Shadow Shaman, you could stack and pull and clear out camps using the Ether Shock. And once the Mass Serpent will come online, every single time you lose a fight against a team with the Shadow Shaman, you're also losing a tower. And if the Blink Dagger also comes online for the Shadow Shaman, he can actually split push. The biggest drawback to the Shadow Shaman is that he's a very greedy support hero. He needs a fair amount of golden experience to really become effective. You want to hit level 7 ASAP to have that level 4 Aether Shock. You want Arcane Boots up on him ASAP, because otherwise he won't have the mana pool to sustain all his abilities. And when the mid to late game starts to kick in, you want to have enough gold in your Shadow Shaman that he could afford a Blink Dagger. Because otherwise, if he's up against an offlane initiator such as a Tidehunter who still isn't the pool, if he gets caught out in the Ravage, he will die within the duration of the Ravage. We've got an Earthshaker first pick coming up from Team Pokerface. And so Earthshaker, a very powerful defensive support hero. You can use Earthshaker very aggressively, because you've got the Fissure block, as well as a long-range initiation stun. So Earthshaker and Mirana can work as a possible support duo, because you Fissure, throw out the arrow immediately, and once you've got enough points in the Fissure, or if you've blocked them off, that you can guarantee the arrow, Earthshaker works very well. So we've got a Brewmaster pickup coming up from Team Pokerface, and Brewmaster, one of the best tempo controlling heroes in the game. For the first 20 minutes, every single time you get a good clap and split combo off, you're guaranteed to win that fight. The sheer amount of CC power coming up from the Brewmaster is enough to be ensure that you're fighting these fights 3v5. Because the enemy team, you either cyclone out their carry hero, or you cyclone out a hero that can save them. So in this case, you want to cyclone out the Shadow Demon, and then prioritize the Death Prophet and try to bring her down using the Boulder Toss coming out from the Brewling, and then just surround her with the minions and burn her down. And so Brewmaster, because he provides you such an obscene amount of early teamfight potential, you want to... with the team that picks up the Brewmaster, you tend to go for these early objectives, because you know you can take fights. Once the Arcane Blink comes online for Brewmaster, you group as 5, every time the split's off cooldown, you take a fight. After you take that fight, you take a tower, and then you back off. And so you continue to place pressure across the map. Once you take these towers, you're able to control the map a lot better. So we've got a Viper ban coming out, as well as a Batright and a Skywrath Mage. Skywrath Mage, very surprising it's been banned out by Zephyr Dota, considering the fact that Skywrath Mage is a fantastic counter to the Brewmaster. Since when Brewmaster blinks in, Ancient Seal is a 0 cast point, so you can actually seal him before he can get the split off. So it makes it difficult for Brewmaster to be able to land a perfect clap into split, since you want to clap before you split to ensure that your CC rotation is a lot easier. Since clap provides you a massive amount of damage and lockdown, the fact that you've got that 55% snare means that it's very easy for you to immediately chain your stun and then your cycle into 2 targets without them breaking apart. And so Viper ban, he's banned out because he's the most powerful 1v1 hero in the game. Very surprised that Team Pokerface actually chose to ban out the Viper. You do see teams running Viper in the tri lane, but conventionally he's running the mid lane. But with the Death Prophet pickup, Viper in the tri lane does work very well because he's a guaranteed mech carrier. It's the reason why Razor is also banned out. Is Razor and Viper, they tend to build the same items. The Cantum to Aghanim Scepter, maybe a BKB thrown in. They're very tanky heroes that get up in your face and force you to deal with them. But because they're so innately survivable, since Razor, he's got the high mobility from the Unstable Current, as well as the Purge effect that he throws out, he's able to stay alive for as long as possible and deal a massive amount of utility. And so both Viper and Razor, they also count as anti-carries, because you use them to shut down the opposing carry. Viper with the Vice Versa Strike and the sheer amount of attack speed snares coming out from his abilities renders the other carry inert. And so it means that you'll fight the enemy team's fighting without that carry for the first 20 minutes. And so it gives you a huge amount of teamfight power. We've got a Silencer pickup coming up from Team Pokerface. And judging from their draft so far, Brewmaster most likely going to be... Well, Brewmaster is a very flexible hero. You usually see him in the mid lane. Since he doesn't do too badly against the Death Prophet, Death Prophet usually beats most heroes 1v1 because she relies on the Crypt Swarm spam. But Brewmaster, he's tanky enough to survive the Crypt Swarm spam, especially through Bottle Crowing. He can control the creep equilibrium just as well as the Death Prophet through Drunken Clap. And with the Brawler, it's difficult to bully him out with right clicks. And Brewmaster, if he ever actually does catch out Death Prophet with a clap, he could deal a fair amount of damage with that guaranteed Drunken Brawler crit. So Brewmaster, he works very well in 1v1 because he's difficult to deal with, especially if he opts for an early point in Haze, but most likely going to be a point in Brawler at 1 if he's running to the mid lane. Then you want to max out the clap. And a lot of teams, they like to max out Drunken Brawler second. You can also opt for a point in Drunken Haze or a point in stats. It really does depend on how early you can get your bottle and what kind of hero you're up against. Against a hero like a Templar Assassin, an early point in Haze can mean a huge difference. And so it ensures that you're able to control lane a lot better. We've got a Sand King pickup coming up for Zephyr Dota. And so they've got a very powerful support duo. Shadow Demon sets up. He's one of the better support heroes for setting up, because the Disruption, you're guaranteed to be able to follow up, especially with a lot of coordination coming up from these teams. So you've got the Disruption, Soul Catcher, Sand King runs up, catch him out the Burrow Strike. The drawback with Sand King is, like a Shadow Shaman, very greedy support. He can make exceptionally good use of the jungle. A lot of pro players, they like to go for a 1-point Burrow Strike at 1, start with boots up on him, to ensure that you get that Burrow Strike off. In this case, because you got the Shadow Demon, not necessarily essential, since the Shadow Demon can set up for you. And once you've got 2 points up in the Sandstorm at level 3, you start rotating to the jungle, stacking out camps, clearing them out, get very early, a Blink Dagger or very early Arcane Boost, and then you can start creating a lot of pressure. Since Sand King can then operate essentially as another core hero once the Blink Dagger comes online. He can single-handedly win you fights, or win you these early ganks by catching heroes out with the Burrow Strike. But Silencer, very surprising they opted to pick up Sand King considering there's a Silencer on the board, as Silencer hard counters the Sand King. If you see the Sand King channeling his Epicenter, you pop your Global Silence. When you go in with the Brewmaster, Global Silence is going to be dropped. And so Sand King, he's completely useless then, and if he dies within the duration of the Silence, he's never going to get any of his abilities off. So we've got a Tinker pickup coming here from Pokerface, which is a bit unusual considering the fact that they're actually on the Dire side. You usually see Radiant Tinker, because you've got stronger lanes on the Radiant side, and you've got easier access to Ancient in the mid lane. And so it means that Tinker can actually stack the camps himself if he's rotating top to check for rune. Otherwise, the supports can stack them and also have the avenue to rotate mid. Whereas with the Dire side, because the Ancient's a lot further away, and because the Dire offlane is much weaker, Tinker's too greedy of a pick to really go for. So a lot of pressure is being placed. The rationale for the Tinker pickup is because you have Brewmaster, you're guaranteed the first 20 minutes of the game. Assuming the Brewmaster is able to find a timely Arcane to blink, so you're usually going to be seeing something like 11-12 minute Arcane to blink, assuming he's got free farm, or a somewhat contested farm. Brewmaster can then create space for the Tinker, and once the Tinker comes online, once he's got the Boots of Travels and the Blink Dagger, it's very difficult to pick him off. Because Zephyr Dota, so far, the only hero they really have that can try to catch up the Tinker is maybe the Sand King or the Shadow Demon. The Shadow Demon can scout out the trees where the Tinker is going to be blinking into, using the Shadow Poison. Sand King can blink in after and Burrow Strike him out. But the drawback to this is Sand King can't kill the Tinker on his own, and Tinker can just stand his ground. Laser him, especially with the March flying, it makes it very difficult for Sand King to go for these kills. So the advantage of picking up Tinker later on in the picking stage means that you're not going to be able to pick up the counters to Tinker. So conventional counter to Tinker is the Storm Spirit, because when he uses the Ball Lightning to find him in the trees, he's also invulnerable, so he's not going to be eating the March damage. Clinks also can be used as a counter to the Tinker if he goes for the EE Summer Blink Dagger build, but even then it's very dicey. And so we've got a Naix Assassin ban coming up, because Naix Assassin's a great counter to Tinker, because you pop the Carapace, run into March, Tinker not only does it disable his Blink Dagger from coming off cooldown, it stuns him. So when you catch him out with a stun, the rest of your team can jump in, especially since you've got a lot of pick-off power with the Sand King with the Blink Burrow Strike. You've got the Lifestealer Bomb as well. So Lifestealer can jump inside the Sand King and use that, and fast to be able to set up these ganks. We've got a Puck ban coming out from Zephyr Dota, as Puck, even because Team Pokerface have got a lot of flexibility, they could potentially run Tinker in the tri lane, Brewmaster in the off lane, and a Puck mid, or even Puck in the off lane as well. There's a lot of flexibility with their 3 cores. Puck gives you a huge amount of teamfight control, because Brewmaster, he relies on being able to control the tempo of the fight by locking down 2 targets. And Puck is able to do that even better by helping out with the Dream Coil. Also gives you a mobile initiator. So we've got an Elder Titan going to be the offlane hero coming up from Team Pokerface, and a Nature's Prophet. So both Elder Titan and the Nature's Prophet haven't really been seeing too much of them in the current metagame. Nature's Prophet, the reason why he's fallen out is with the emphasis on the Death Ball metagame. He's a bit of a risky hero to pick up, just because it is very difficult. Looks like I'm actually having a fair amount of issues with the camera. Oh, there we go. Free camera, come on. There we go. So the issue with the Nature's Prophet is by the time he comes online, the enemy team's Death Ball push is a lot more powerful than yours. And so they could group us 5, take your towers before you could split push. With the prevalence of very powerful and very tanky support heroes, or support heroes that can stand toe-to-toe against them. So for instance, you've either got the Lich or the Tree that work very well against Nature's Prophet, as the Train Protector can living armor up the towers to prevent all the chip damage that he deals. Since Nature's Prophet, he doesn't have enough pushing power on his own to be able to take these towers, unless you give him enough time and space to do so. It takes about 30-40 seconds for Nature's Prophet to be able to take a tower down. In that time, you can assume the enemy team is going to rotate to try to drive him off, and then then the Train Protector can simply living armor the tower. And because these heroes are tanky, the Nature's Prophet doesn't really have a comeback mechanic to be able to kill him using the Wrath of Nature and TPing in. So Nature's Prophet does work very well with their lineup, because you've got the global Infest Naix Bomb coming up from him. It looks like Jesus Stick actually going to be spotted up by Yosin. And so Yosin, he's got the Burrow Strike at 1, but no boots up on him. And without Blitz Dota there to be able to catch him out of the disruption, going to be difficult to be able to catch out Jesus Stick. And Jesus Stick, starting with the boots first, he actually wasn't able to drop off the safety ward. And so a lot of pressure is going to be placed on the Elder Titan. The Dire offlane is much more difficult than the Radiant offlane, because Radiant offlane, you have access to this hard camp tree to pull out. It's much more difficult to de-ward your safety ward, since the conventional ward placement there, but you can also be cheeky, place it there, or even there. So it's much more difficult to guess. Whereas as the Radiant side, usually going to be seeing it there, or there. These are the conventional safety ward spots, because you never want to place it here or there, because this is the greedy pub ward that the offlaner usually goes for in pubs, because it gives you vision of the rune, as well as giving you access to when they're rotating in. So conventional safety, sentry ward placement is going to be there to spot out a safety ward there, as well as there. And over in the mid lane, looks like we're going to be seeing Ju going to be up against Merlini in that mid matchup. So Brewmaster v Death Prophet. Brewmaster does okay against Death Prophet, because he's tanky enough that the Death Prophet won't be able to completely bully him out of lane and actually go for a kill. Actually, it looked like he opted for Drunken Clap at 1. Usually see Brawler at 1, because it gives you the guaranteed last hits, especially when you're against a hero that has higher base damage than you, that the Death Prophet has. Death Prophet, the reason why she wins mid lane is Crypt Storm is an incredibly efficient spell. You use it to push out the creep wave by killing off the creep by Gloria and making sure that it's pushed up so you can go for the rune. It also deals a lot of damage to the enemy hero. And because it's got such a low mana cost and points up in the Witchcraft and got a low CD, it's a very powerful killing spell. And so Death Prophet, that's how she wins her lane, by being able to constantly land these efficient Crypt Swarms to not only find farm but to harass the enemy hero and also rotate for rune. Since Brewmaster, very difficult to contest rune against the DP, because once boots come online, DP with a few points up in the Witchcraft should be able to outmaneuver Ju. So we could actually be seeing some support rotations in to be able to block off these rune camps or guard them, to ensure that Ju gets these runes, because that's the only way that the Brewmaster will be able to really win against the Death Prophet. Brewmaster sent mid similar to the Dragon Knight, because it's very difficult to lose mid, just because he's so survivable as a hero. But looks like over in the top lane, Sexy Bambo gets caught out with a fissure as well as a last word. Not going to be enough damage to be able to bring him down. And he's actually completely out of mana. So Febby, once the point up in the Coastal Silence comes online, it's going to be very difficult for Sexy Bambo to stay top, and he's actually completely rotating out. So he's immediately been forced out of the lane, but he's picked up level 2.5. Compare that to the Elder Titan, who's 1.5, just because he doesn't have the trees to be able to leash back the creep wave, and because Jesus Stick has to be playing very carefully. He's got a safety ward placed there, but Blitz Dota, no sentry up on him. I believe there's no sentries available for either, and he does spot out Jesus Stick, and so Jesus Stick knows that there's something not quite right. He's going to be guarding out that bottom rune, though, in case it spawns. And so it's an Invis rune being spawned out there. Ju, he knows it's up. Bottles flying out to him by the courier. Walking courier so far, with the Soul Ring already up on the Tinker. And a lot of pressure is going to be placed on him. And so Tinker, he's their late game assurance. Tinker is the best late game hero in the game, because he's the only late game hero that can actually drag the game out to the later stages. Simply because he's so difficult to breach high ground, with the constant march spam coming out from him. He's difficult to pick off once the Blink Dagger comes online, because you BOT to a creep, you shift Q to blink out. And unless they have a hero that can actually close the distance or find him in the trees, it's difficult to actually go for a kill attempt to the Tinker. And so he's able to drag the game out long enough by dealing the split pushing presence similar to a farming Nagasari. Looks like Jesus Stick actually opted to pick up the Invis Rune, so it's just going to passively leech EXP. And Corey, the Lifestealer, probably going to be opting for Phase Drum into Armlet Medigian. That used to be the conventional build up on the Naix. We do see Maelstrom picked up a lot more often now because it gives you a lot more DPS, especially with the nerf to Armlet. But it will be interesting to see what you choose to go for. Lifestealer, you usually don't want to go for a Hand of Midas on the Lifestealer unless you're feeling incredibly confident in your late game. Just because Lifestealer, he's a mid-game momentum-based carry that relies on being able to find these kills very early on. He's one of the more aggressive carries in the game. And so if you're not able to get ahead in terms of gold, in terms of items, the Lifestealer falls apart very quickly, especially because he needs a one-item advantage to be able to go toe-to-toe against another carry. Similar to a Viper or a Razor, you win by being able to by having a stronger early and having a stronger mid-game. And so Nature's Prophet, Sexy Bambog, doing what he can to be to keep the creep wave leashed up. You never want the creep wave to actually go into tower range, so you want to keep it around here. So that way you'll be able to passively leech EXP or actively find CS, and they can't dive you, especially with the tower so close, and especially with boots up on you. And so good recognition coming up from Sexy Bambog. With the creep equilibrium pushing up like this, he's getting a lot of free experience. And so Nature's Prophet, especially with the Wrath of Nature, he doesn't necessarily need gold this early on. He's guaranteed to find gold because he's got other abilities that will find him farm. Especially since he can rotate into the jungle if he absolutely needs to. He could go for kills with the teleportations. That's the threat of the Nature's Prophet, is you always have to add +1 hero to whatever lane you're up against. So if it's try, it's now 4v3 because the Nature's Prophet can always TP in. But in terms of CS, we see Corey's leading the board. JU actually being out CS by the Death Prophet, but that's to be expected. Death Prophet with the much more efficient nuke. With the Crypt Swarm, especially considering the fact that Drunken Clap actually costs a fair amount of mana, and Pandarean Brewmaster, his only limitation as a hero is his mana pool. And so because he can't spam out the Clap as easily as Merlini can spam out the Crypt Swarm, Merlini should be ahead in terms of CS, but JU, once level 6 comes online, because in terms of denies, he's actually hasn't been denied too much experience. And so once that split comes online, he can actually look to play very aggressively against Merlini, or continue to farm his lane and maybe try to rotate once he picks up another rune. So if he's able to find something like a haste rune or a double damage rune, he can start to create space for his team and try to set up these ganks. But Sexy Bamboo, going to be a very difficult target to go on. The advantage of playing against a Nature's Prophet is it's very easy to dive him because he's got no real assurance once you dive tower range. He could maybe sprout one of your heroes, but considering the fact that he's actually going to be running out of mana one more Curseless Silent, Nature's Prophet can't do anything. So unlike say the Elder Titan that's got the Echo Stomp available, or can actually stand his ground, since Jesus Stick actually not opting to go for any points in the Echo Stomp, he's going for a very conventional Elder Titan build, probably going to be opting for an early point in the Earth, but he actually gets spotted out by Yosin. Yosin's got the Burst Strike available, but Purge Waifu comes in, actually his Blitzer, and never mind, does catch on the Soul Catcher. Unfortunately Yosin misses, Disrupt now comes out, but Jesus Stick actually should be able to make it out of this. He just actually stands his ground, throws out the Ancestral Spirit, only gets one, Fisher now flies out as Sky actually rotates in to help out his teammate. But because the Bar Strike missed, and because they went for the Bar Strike instead of the Disrupt first, it ensures that G-Stick was able to get out of there. You see, the amount of damage he took, even without the Bar Strike, just with the Soul Catcher and the 2 ticks of the Shadow Poison, was forced him back to the Fountain. And so if they'd timed that combo perfectly, if you'd had the Disrupt with the Soul Catcher and then the Bar Strike, I don't think they would have had enough damage to be able to kill him, but they would have had a much better chance of being able to bring him down, especially with Sky rotating in. Probably wouldn't be able to go for a kill, but would have had a much higher chance of that succeeding. That's the biggest drawback of Sand King as a sport position hero, is because his Bar Strike at level 1, it doesn't really have enough range to be effective, because you're not going to be at close distance in time. Sand King, average movement speed of 300, you're not going to be able to get close enough to them unless you're able to completely catch them in a position. But considering the safety ward's been placed out here and hasn't been dewarded at all, Jesus Stick, while he's having a very difficult off lane, he shouldn't be dying anytime soon unless he makes a massive misplay. And with the Creep Equilibrium actually pushing up, he's going to be hitting level 3.5 from this experience. And so the advantage of the Elder Titan is once he gets that Soul Ring, and once he gets a few points up in the Ancestral Spirit in the natural order, he can actually do a fair amount of work to harass out the enemy carry. And so it's the biggest strength of the Elder Titans, while he's a bit of a greedy offlane in the sense that if he has he needs golden experience to be effective. JU actually rotating with a haste rune, that can be a free kill over on Yosin or on Purge. Purge has to be careful. Yosin with the Sandstorm should be fine. We've already got the Drunken Brawler crit, and Purge immediately TPs on that. Great reaction coming up from him, since JU's got no way to be able to break that. He comes and throws that clap over Yosin. One more clap will actually drop him down to about 3-4 HP. But JU, he's actually forced back. Actually, he's hanging around. He knows that Yosin, he actually broke the Sandstorm, and that's going to be seeing First Blood coming out right now. As JU, one more clap should just barely be able to deal enough damage. There you go, 225, and First Blood going in favor of Pokerface. In terms of golden experience, I'm actually going to take off the spectator thing. We've got about 250 experience in favor of Pokerface, and that's just due to the First Blood. But in terms of gold, Zephyr, there were 1,000 gold ahead, now going down to about 500. And Merlini, he's actually farming up an absolute storm. He's got 7 more CS and 8 more denies compared to JU. And the advantage of the Death Prophet is whenever the mid lane hero rotates, and especially since Brewmaster is going to be rotating, as he doesn't actually have enough damage to bring down Merlin, but while he said it, Fisher Block coming out from Skies, whilst the clap, and Merlin's actually out of money. He's going to be very careful, but immediately, Blitz comes in, Split's coming out from the Drunken Brawler, so he might actually, that's a wasted split, and that's a 140-second window that you're now handing in favor of the enemy team. And Purge, good timely rotation coming out from him. Good game sense coming out from the boys over in Zephyr. And Corey, it looks like he did go for the Hand of Midas. The drawback of the Midas is it's a 2,000 gold down the drain. I guess because they've got the Nature's Prophet, they're assuming that they could try to drag the game out, because you've also got the DP to help control the tempo of the mid game. But because Lifestealer, as a late game hero, only works if he's one item ahead, the Hand of Midas kind of makes you a lot weaker during the mid game when you're meant to be the strongest. Of course, the advantage of this is if he's able to use the Midas 7-8 times, it's going to pay for itself, and the EXP lead that you get from that can turn Lifesteal into a very powerful threat. So there are two ways about it. On one hand, you do want to go for early mid game oriented items, especially with the Death Prophet, so you can group up and take these early towers. But at the same time, if you think you're ahead, and if you think that your team can try to hold the mid game, especially since Pokerface, a lot of pressure is going to be placed on this Tinker, so they do want Lifesteal to have a fair amount of farm to be able to deal with that. It does work either way, but of course, because Tinker actually hasn't been stopped at all, MP over on that Tinker, 73 for 24, so he's gotten every single CS in lane, as well as some neutral creeps. That's the only way his CS score can be that high at this early on in the game. He's already got his Boots of Travels up, so we've got an 8-minute Boots of Travels up on the Tinker, and once that Blink Dagger comes online, they don't actually have a way to go for a kill on the Tinker. If they're very lucky, and if the Shadow Demon happens to be nearby to be able to scatter him out, the Shadow Poison, and the Sand King happens to be nearby as well with the Blink Dagger ready, they might be able to go for a kill, but otherwise, it'll be very difficult to go in. So we've already got a Soul Catcher, the Disruption, actually Soul Catcher's been saved, he's near the creep wave, Bar Strike lands, because the creeps were there, no Soul Catcher flies out, Soul Catcher flies out now, and JYU actually could be taking fall, he's got no split available, one more Shadow Poison, actually Wrath of Nature being committed for that as well, throws out a clap over Yosin, actually drives Yosin back, Yosin could be taking fall right now, forced to Bar Strike out so he doesn't die. Good recognition coming out from JU, using the clap to drive off Yosin, and he's able to keep himself alive. So Brewmaster, while he did waste the clap, because he hasn't died, and because there's been absolutely no pressure being placed on the Tinker, PKU, they have to superior late game if the game does go that late, because Silence and the Elder Titan, they scale very well in late stage of the game. Earthshake is always a very powerful threat, even if his damage is being mitigated by a BKB, because the lockdown potentially provides for the rest of the team. MP now throws out the lasers whilst the missile curses, last word being used over on Blitz. Merlini, he's actually standing his ground, kills Febby with the Exorcism Spirits, the Marching Machines flying out. Not really doing too much. Very surprised the Silencer continue to try to chase down Merlini. You never want to face off against a Death Prophet and fight in Exorcism. Whenever Exorcism's up, you run the hell the other way, because you're not going to be able to DPS down the Death Prophet in time, unless if you happen to catch her out of position, you know you can burst it down. But the Silencer, not going to have enough stamina to bring down Death Prophet, so he just throws his life away. And we've got the Smoke of Deceit being purchased up on Febby. He's rotating over to the top lane now, and now he's going to find his experience, because he wants to hit level 6 ASAP. It looks like he actually opted for no points in the glaives. You usually see maybe 1 point in the glaives if you're against an off lane that you can harass out with right clicks, but because Nature's Prophet, Sexy Bamboo is going to be playing very passively, and with the Treants, it's going to be difficult to try to engage on, because you can always leash the creep wave back. And so a good recognition coming up from Febby. The reason why you used to go for an early point Glaives of Wisdom is before the rework, where the intelligence steal wasn't an intrinsic part of Silencer, you needed the point glaives to be able to benefit from the intelligence steal, so that you usually opted for a very early point to make sure that if you weren't involved in the kill, you'd be able to get the intelligence from that. But otherwise, now with the rework, so it's intrinsic part of Silencer, you don't necessarily have to go for an early point up in the Glaives of Wisdom, unless you're up against an offlaner such as the Elder Titan that you're able to get these right clicks in on. So Sexy Bamboo playing very safe. Looks like he could be going for it's either going to be his Hand of Midas or could be going for the Maelstrom, but the fact that he went for Phase Boots as opposed to Treads, going to be seeing a Hand of Midas, as the greed coming out from Zephyr hasn't actually been punished too much. Yosin is getting called out with the Global Silence, what's the Curse of Silence? Silence actually does get a kill over on Blitz in the meanwhile, as Febby brings him down, and Yosin should be taken for one more Glaive flies out, and JYU there in case with the Haste Rune. Also ready to be able to go in. And that Sexy Bamboo, he's actually called out with the fissure. MP's there, throws out the march aggressively to the block of his escape route. Sexy Bamboo going high, but JU's got a haste rune again. Sky's also clarity up to be able to throw their fissure just in case, and JU cleans him off one more brawler crit. In the mid lane, while this is happening, Merlini doing what Death Prophet does best. Whenever the mid hero rotates and goes in for a gank, unless you're able to rotate yourself, but in this case, since they're caught out of position, they're going to be taking it for regardless. You use split push, you go in for the mid tower. We've got a split coming out, as well as a BOT coming in from Tinker, so MP is going to provide the damage while Tinker provides the lockdown. This is the added benefit of the Tinker Brewmaster combination. Merlini stands his ground, turns around, throws out a Grave Chill, as well as the Exorcism. But he dies, and Exorcism now being wasted. So that's a 90-second window that's been given over the Team Pokerface. But Yosin catches out JYU with a Bar Strike. He's got support coming in from the Lifestealer, but Corey, he's not going to be there in time. Bamboo comes in, catching him with the Sprout. Actually uses a Tree to be able to body block him as well. Good plays coming up from Sexy Bamboo. And Corey actually does bring down one more right click. Looks like he's got drums up as well. And so 12 minutes in, phase drum as well as the hand of Midas. Corey's looking absolutely stacked. And MP goes to the tower deny, should be able to bring it down. Sexy Bambo's in his streams to try to go for it. And he's BOTing out. He's got the Blink Dagger now available. And Tinker, he's now reached the point of critical mass where it's very difficult to be able to go for kills up on him if he plays appropriately, doesn't find himself out of position. Because the biggest issue with the Tinker once the BOT comes online is you shift you Blink out into the trees. And so it's almost impossible to catch him out unless a hero happens to be there who could also scout him out when he blinks into the trees. So it's the reason why when you're playing against the Tinker, you want to shut him down. It's the reason why a lot of teams like to run Tinker in that tri lane, is while you do get less experience than you would over in the mid lane, you get guaranteed farm. And once that guaranteed farm comes in, once you're able to find your Soul Ring, your Boots of Travels as well as your Blink Dagger, you can farm across the map without any fear. Because so far, the only one that can try to catch him out is Yosin with the Blink Dagger up on the Sand King. But the Sand King actually hasn't been having a great time with the 2 deaths off on him. But even then, with 2 deaths, because the Sand King's, Yosin's able to constantly rotate into the jungle and clear out these stack camps, he's still level 6.5, and he's actually 2/3 of the way with his Blink Dagger. So it's the power of the Sand King and being able to efficiently find farm across the map. In terms of net worth, Tinker leading the scoreboard, MP, but the greed coming out from Corey with the Midas, actually ensuring that he's actually got relative parity in terms of net worth. So Lifestealer, the early hand of Midas, while it did delay their early to mid game teamfighting presence, because it hasn't been punished at all, as PKF, with the Tinker pickup, they're going to be playing fairly cautiously and fairly defensively. They could afford to go for greed. Global Silence being used, not actually too sure why they went for the Global Silence. Actually, never mind, looks like JU called him out. I couldn't actually see the Pandarean Brewmaster on the minimap when he's got that split, so you're able to bring down Purge. Never mind, Blitz, not Purge. Purge is his waifu, I do forget. Sky able to TP out from Corey, so it's the biggest drawback of the Lifestealer. Although the biggest drawback of a lot of carries in general, because they don't have the way to be able to interrupt TPs, you just can simply just TP on out of them. JU blinks up, revealing his Blink Dagger up on Merlini. Merlini, he just simply TPs on out of there. He doesn't want to stand up against this. Looks like he actually opted for very early jumps of endurance over in the Death Prophet. So it's there to give you a much more powerful mid game, which gives you a lot more stats. The drawback to this build is it delays your Yule Scepter. And Death Prophet, she's all about the Yule Scepter. It's the most efficient item you could buy on the Death Prophet in regard to damage for gold as well as mana for gold. Since Death Prophet, she deals damage just by being alive with the Exorcism. And since Exorcism damage is calculated based on how close you are to them, and similar to the carriers in StarCraft 2, every single time the ghosts hit you, they have to fly back to the Death Prophet before they can launch another attack. So when you've got the movement speed coming in from the Witchcraft, the Phase Boots, as well as the Yule Scepter, you simply phase on top of them, and the Spirits then deal obscene amounts of damage, because their DPS is at their peak, simply because they don't have to constantly be flying back and forth, so there's no travel time between them. And so it gives you the aggressive capability, also gives you the defensive capability, so if JYU blinks on top of him, claps, goes in for the split, you drop your Exorcism, you cycling yourself up to the air, that buys you 2.5 seconds, you've then got 2.5 seconds coming in from Blitz, who could then also disrupt you. And actually it looks like Shadow Demon opted for a very unconventional build. You usually see Soul Catcher maxed out if you're playing as Shadow Demon in that support position role, but at the same time, maxing out Shadow Poison does give you a lot more damage. And I guess they don't necessarily need the Soul Catcher damage if you could guarantee these Shadow Poison stacks. And with the Burrow Strike on top of it, I suppose only a single point in Shadow, it gives you a lot more DPS, since you're guaranteed to get at least 3 stacks of the Shadow Poison. Shadow Poison, it's been buffed in the recent patch, so it does stack up to 5 times. Sexy Batman caught him with a great fissure. JYU blinks on top and claps him in the face, brings him down with the Brawler, and they're immediately grouping up in the top lane, so the top tier 1, the off lane. And Zephyr, if they want to react to this, they can't really fight as 5 at the moment, because the Drunken Split, the split's available, as the Blink Dagger's been shown from the Panda, so they really can't fight 5v5, especially with the Midas on the Lifestealer. He really can't fight until the Armlet comes online. And so they're going to decide to go for a split push. That's the only thing they can do. But Jesus Stick, he actually hasn't opted for an early point over in the Earth Splitter. You usually go for an early point in the Earth Splitter if you think you'll be fighting early. But because his team, they have been playing fairly safe, he can go for a 4 points up in the natural order before he needs a point over in the Earth Splitter. So 0-4-4-1. The usual standard build coming from the Yellow Titan. In some cases, if you are fighting very early on as 5, you want to opt for an early point in the Earth Splitter at 6, but it's fairly rare, it's by case basis. And since the game has been fairly passive with Zephyr, opting for a lot of greed with what looks like double Midas, Blitz, he just gets burned down as MP, lasers in the face to bring him down. JYU immediately be TPing over to the bot lane. Febby leading the charge with a double damage range, got 4 intelligence all up on him. Corey's going to get last word, so it also disarms him. Means that he's not going to be able to do anything in these engagements. Lifestealer, the sole purpose of the hero is to run up to people and hit them. You can also BT over to the Ancestral Spirit. Corey forced to use the Rage, so it actually stands the ground, turns against MP. MP actually could be taking a fall right now. Handed Mind's attack speed doing a huge amount of work. He does bring it down, the Dagon also being revealed. Corey could be taking a fall to the match, never mind, he's able to get that Armlet, and Armlet toggle himself out of there. Yosin just barely keeping it alive, and Jesus Tech also dives too far in, gets caught out with the Sprout, and the Crypt Swarm cleans on from melee. So great plays coming up from Zephyr Dota in order to respond to this. Sky, he's actually got to be very careful. He's out of mana. He's got Soul Ring, so opted for Soul Ring as opposed to the Arcane Boots. Soul Ring, very good pick up on the Earthshaker if you're having a bit of a difficult start. But usually you want to see Arcane Boots up on them because it just gives you a lot more value, since you could also provide that mana for the rest of your team. Looks like JYU, he is actually rotating up to try to defend this tier 1, or to maybe go for a pick off once they break. And JYU, no rune up on him. He's got Blink Dagger, no Arcane Boots as well. He's actually been holding onto his gold. You usually want Arcane Boots ASAP on the Brewmaster to ensure that you can get 2 claps off, as well as to be able to use all your abilities in the fight. Since right now, he just barely has enough mana to be able to use the Split, Haze, as well as the clap. And so he's actually opting for a very early Aghanim Scepter. Aghanim Scepter, if you get it by the 20 to 22 minute mark on the Brewmaster, is absolutely devastating. Because you've got the double clap. So 600 burst damage just coming up from the Brewmaster on multiple targets will be able to ensure that you decimate their backline. And the instant you kill off their backline, the team that wins these engagements is the one that's going to kill the backline a lot faster. Because the Shadow Demon, you can't afford to leave him alive. He's going to bail out your other heroes with that disruption. And with the Demonic Purge, he should be able to control the Elder Titan or the Tinker quite effectively. And especially if the Tinker's Blink is on cooldown. Merlini looks like now he's opting for the Yule Scepter, so the advantage of the going for the early drums pickup is it gives you a lot more survivability against the Tinker, because he knows that Tinker's going to go in for Dagon ASAP. As with PKF's lineup, usually Tinker can go for either, but while he said it, you're just actually catching out with a Naix Bomb. So Blink Burrow Strike, and then Corey jumps out, and Merlini's able to clean that up. So Tinker, you can either go for the Sheep Stick, or you go for the Dagon. Dagon is the preferred build now, because Tinker's able to then instantly kill off into the backline hero. So you go for Sheepstick when your team has damage but lacks lockdown, and you go for Dagon when your team has lockdown but lacks damage. And because you've got the Brewmaster, you have all the CC in the world. You've got Earthshaker as well as Brewmaster. Those 2 heroes alone can control the fight quite effectively. And so you have to provide that damage then, because you want to instantly kill Blitz every single fight. If you don't instantly pick him off, he's going to be able to bail out whatever other target you jump on. If he's able to be very timely with his disruption, he buys you that 2.5 second window. You've also got the Yule Scepter and Merlini, so they can't really jump on Merlini because he's guaranteed to be able to get it off unless you stun him. Or if you, and prevent him from being able to use the Yule Scepter. Yule Scepter also has the added benefit against the Silencer, because when you're cycloned up, when you drop back down, it actually purges off whatever CC buff is on you. Sexy Bambo's going to be caught out by MP, who blinks right on top of him, throws out the missile. Laser's going to be flying as well. He's actually holding onto his lasers. Got the Dagon, throws out the March, and Sexy Bambo actually jukes into the trees and TP's on out there. So good plays coming up for him. Wasting as much time as possible from MP, but MP immediately slams up the March. Creep Wave unfortunately isn't there, so he's actually being a bit inefficient with that rotation. He's immediately going back to the tier 2 to be able to try to farm up that Creep Wave. And the tree coming up from the next Prophet are going to be farmed up by that March. It's providing an extra amount of gold. Global Silence has been used as Blitz once again. He's being the sole target of these silences. Yosin does come in, catches out JUIU. He's going on for the Epicenter, and the split immediately flies out, so the Epicenter being completely whiffed. Ancestral Spirit landing over on top of Purge. He does smoke, but Tinker immediately BLTs on top of him, missiles him in the face. As the power of the Tinker, especially in conjunction with PKF's lineup, Merlin looks like he actually cleaned up Fabi in the background. The Earth Panda taking a fair amount of damage, but he should be able to get on out of there. Although that being said, that's such low HP, he actually just barely blinks himself out. It's a good recognition coming from him. Merlini, he's out for blood though. He's got one more Cryptstone coming off cooldown, and there we go. With Exorcism Spirits as well as one more right click. He brings him down. Sexy Bambo, they've actually got to be very careful. But never mind. It looks like MP, he's nowhere near that fight. And Jesus Stick, he got the hell out of dodge the incident. And the fight went south, and it looks like he's going to be the mech carrier for his team. So it's the advantage of a hero like a Doombringer or an Altar in the off lanes. You've got a guaranteed mech carrier, and you always want to have a guaranteed mech carrier because it gives your team a lot more sustainability. A team that finds an early mech should be able to win these early engagements because it's a 250 EHP buffer that's going towards every member of your team. And unlike a pipe, it's reactive as well. So long as you're able to get the mech off, it should give you a huge amount of teamfight impedance. And Naix Prophet looks like Sexy Bambo opting for the Orchid and Malevolence as well. So the Midas greed coming out from him as well as Corey hasn't been punished at all. So in terms of gold, Zephyr, they're ahead, 7,500 gold, and that gold is going to get further and further. So they recognize the greed coming out from PKF with a Dire Side Tinker, and they realize that they don't have a lineup that can counter the Tinker, and so what they're going to do instead is they're going to try to drag it up to the late game and have enough farm that they don't really have to give a damn about the Tinker. So 7,500 gold as well as experience lead, and that's just due to the fact that in terms of last hits, all 3 cores of Zephyr are obscenely farmed. The only hero that has a huge amount of farm on PKF is the Tinker, as the biggest flaw of the Tinker as a one-position hero is he takes farm from everywhere across the map. Like a one-position Nagastarin, the rest of your team isn't going to be finding anything. They might be able to find gold from kills or from towers, but they sure as hell aren't going to be farming out creep, because Tinker's going to be BOTing everywhere, taking all that farm, and they need Tinker to find this farm to be effective. So we've got Cranium Basher now up over on Corey, and Sexy Bambo, you've got the global teleportation gang coming up for him, but Sky catches him out with the Fisher. He's actually holding on to the Fisher for now. The Taken as well as the Laser Brink combination brings down Sexy Bambo. Corey immediately TP's on out. With that rage, they can't interrupt him. Not actually 100% certain if Echo Slam the stun from that will go through BO2. I know the damage does for the first instance without the Echo. Not 100% certain that the stun does. If it did, he could have actually gone for that and used the expended the Echo Slam in order to lock him down Corey. But we've got a very early Ghost Scepter up on MP, so this is the Excalibur Tinker build. You want to go for the E-Blade after Dagon 1 because it gives you the most cost-effective deep. But of course, at the same time, upgrading the Dagon very early on gives you a huge amount of burst damage. You use that when you're playing from your head, so you can instantly kill their backline heroes with one combo. Since you're not going to be having a full damage combo. While I say that, he does go down Laser and Dagon's down Merlini. And so Merlini, overextending a bit, he did get that tower. Actually, no, looks like never mind. Jesus Stick was able to deny that. And so with that deny, as well as with that kill, a huge amount of gold going in their favor. Fabi pops the Global Silence. We've got a Splitting Force as well. Yosin, you call out the last word, as well as the Curse of the Sun and the Pandarean split, so you should be taking a full Sky. Very low. They really want to go for that kill. Sexy Bambo is now going to be very careful, as he does come in. He throws out the Wrath of Nature before he takes the fall, but he should be dropping in very quickly. MP with that Ghost Scepter, keeping himself alive for as long as possible, but Corey does smack him down. Echo Slam flies out, catches out on Blitz as well as on Corey. Blitz is still alive. He's got Disruption as well as the... he's got Disruption available. Doesn't have enough mana to use though. He's got enough for a Shadow Poison once he uses those stick charges, but JU just blitz on top of him and claps him down. Standing his ground up against Corey. Corey's forced to flee. He doesn't have the invade. He's got to cool down one more second. And with the Armor Tog, he's able to just barely keep himself alive. So good recognition coming out from Corey. But all in all, good fight going in favor of PKF. They did lose MP up on that Tinker, but they were able to clean up fall for that. So Merlini, he had a huge amount of free gold in his hands, and so they were able to clean that up. Jesus Stick also denied the mid tattoo, and so Merlini's death wasn't worth it. If he was able to get the tattoo and he died, even if he did feed that spree, he's at least providing a huge amount of map control, a huge amount of gold for his team. But in terms of warding, we see Zephyr Dota playing very aggressively. We're going to aggressive mid ward here, since once the tier 1 falls, the creep equilibrium is always going to be pushing up to around here. So it means that with the tier 2 tower being so far away, now without the tier 2 tower, it's difficult to farm your mid lane, especially with another aggressive ward coming out from Zephyr. And so Zephyr, they know that the way to win against the Tinker is to take these objectives very early on and starve them in farm. And so Yosin as well as Corey, once again able to pick off Sky. Jesus, they caught up with a second hit bash. He's going to be taking a fall as well. Corey, up on his lifesteal, is talking about lifesteal and needing a lot of farm to be effective as a carry hero. And with that Mize being unpunished, he has found that amount of farm. Soul Catcher being used, as well as the Demonic Purge. One more right click and the Shadow Poison should be enough. MP comes in, does bring down Merlini. He Ghost Steps himself up to save himself from Corey with the defensive march going out. But while that's happening, Sexy Bambo, doing what Nature's Prophet does best, takes your tier 1 tower. The Auckland Malevolent is designed specifically to counter either JYU when he blinks in. Since when he blinks, you can silence him. Auckland Silence has got 0 cast points. You can silence him before he splits or before he claps, or against the Tinker. Since if you silence Tinker, Tinker's completely useless. If you're able to force him to go for a BKB, you're not only depriving Tinker of 4k gold, which he needs to finish up in none of his items, but more importantly, you're depriving Tinker of one of his inventory slots. And Tinker, as the hardest late game, one of the hardest late game heroes in the game, inventory spot's an absolute premium to Tinker. You never want to waste an inventory slot up on him. You want to hold on to your Soul Ring for as long as possible, because it guarantees that you get another match off with your Rearm. And it looks like MP opting for only 2 points in the Rearm. You usually don't go for the 3rd point in Rearm until you have enough intelligence to make good use of it, because otherwise it's going to be making your Rearms very inefficient. You're going to be chewing through mana much too quickly. Some players like Excalibur, they actually like to stick on level 1 Rearm for a lot longer than they really should be. And that's just to give them a lot more efficiency with the Tinker, because the whole point of Tinker is to be as efficient as possible with your rotations. Every single time you BOT into a lane, you want to expend as little mana as possible to be able to get the maximum amount of reward. Because your hero is so entirely dependent on being able to maximize your golden experience, you have to be very efficient with your rotations. It's the mark of a good Tinker player is how efficient he is with his mana pool. So if you're able to farm up 2-3 creep waves with a full mana pool, as opposed to only being able to farm up 1, then be forced back into base to be able to regen, it's going to delay your core items for a lot of time. And since Tinker is a hero that's going to be taking farm from everybody else, you need Tinker to come online ASAP. While I say that, JY, you go to Sexy Bambo. Sexy Bambo, unable to get the Orchid and himself on time. He's got the Blink Dagger. Global Silence interrupts it. Earthsplit also flies over his corpse. Huge amount of hatred coming out from Pokerface to ensure that kill up on the Nature's Prophet. And they should be able to take the tier 1 in the bottom lane. Looks like Sexy Bambo. No buyback up on him. Golden Experience Graph, just going to take a quick peek at that. It's going to be about 6,000 in favor of Team Zephyr. And about 10,000 gold lead. It's very rare to see this much of a gold lead going in favor of the team against the Tinker, but it's due to the double-handed Midas coming out from Zephyr, so great recognition coming out from them. They knew that the Tinker in the Dire side is going to be playing a lot more defensively, especially since he's not going to be going to the mid lane. And so once they realized that Tinker's going to be the tri-lane farmer, they decided to counter greed with greed, because they know that they could get a lot more farm up on their 3 cores, and once those 3 cores receive enough farm that they could go against the Tinker and ignore his march damage, they could try to breach high ground, they could try to pick him off outside, and try to force these engagements that the Tinker's forced to BOT in to help out the rest of his team. Because if they keep Tinker's team down, especially since in terms of net worth, The rest of Tinker's team isn't doing too crash shot. JYU, the only one that's got comparable amount of net worth. He's only got the Blink as well as the Aghanim Scepter. But the Aghanim Scepter, the drawback to it is if the game goes late enough, it actually is a bit of a detriment. Because the 26-second Primal Split, while it's fine and then while I say that, Yusin comes in with the Naix Bomb, with the Blink Fire Strike, Global Silence, actually never once the Awkward 11 being used. So the E-Blade as well as the Dagon being used to immediately clean up Yosin. Sexy Bam with the splits now online. He takes a fall as MP gets a double kill. Great plays coming from Corey. He's completely on his own. Ancestral Spirit being on his own and out. Last word being used. Coastal Silence will be coming off as well. And MP just blows him up. Actually, E-Blades are Merlini's illusion, so a lot of hatred being used there. Just in case to make sure that wasn't real. And Tinker with that E-Blade Dagon, he's now reached the point of... It's starting to reach the point of no return for them. Because once he's able to upgrade the Dagon to level 5, it looks like it's a level 2 Dagon right now. He can one-shot... or combo down Blitz immediately, combo down Yosin. He can actually might even be the combo down Merlini once the Dagon 5 comes online, especially with the Ancestral Spirit on top of them, because the natural order, the way it works in Dota 2, which is different to Dota 1, is in Dota 1, negative, you couldn't go into negative magic resistance values. Once it went below 0, magic resistance, it wouldn't amplify the damage further, so it just effectively treat the spell as pure damage. In Dota 2, because magic resistance works the same way as armor, and it has the exact same calculation for it, once you go into negative magic resistance, it actually amplifies magic damage. So the Nature's Order, much more powerful in Dota 2 than it is in Dota 1. Looks like Dire Courier actually took a fall. So there was 0 cargo worth up in that, but the Courier's worth about 2/3 as much gold as a tower kill, so it's a huge amount of gold going in their favor. Death Prophet looks like actually going to be going for what looks like a Bloodstone. And so Bloodstone on a Death Prophet, it's usually an item you don't want to go for unless you're very far ahead, because the Bloodstone's a snowball dependent item. In this game, because you're against the Tinker, the Bloodstone makes a lot of work. Makes a lot of sense and does a lot of work, because A, it ensures that Tinker's not going to be able to burn you down in one combo. And so it gives you that survivability to ensure that you get your exorcism off and that you're able to stay tall in these fights. If Death Prophet should die, because Merlin is going to be very difficult to bring down his engagements, and with the Bloodstone charges, it saves him on buyback gold, because he's going to be respawning a lot faster than he should. And so it gives him a huge amount of versatility if the game goes late. And the way Zephyr Dota are playing this is they're expecting the game to go late, because they know they're up against a Tinker. And so, as opposed to trying to end the game as early as possible, which is a mistake that a lot of teams do make from time to time, and try to break themselves against the high ground of PKF, they're saying, bring on the late game, we'll just out-carry you. We'll get a lot more gold up on our 3 cores. Our team will have a lot more gold than you, because we've got 3 to 4 farmers. You've only got 1 farm at the moment. Yosin actually is called out with the Dagon, so Sky's sending it out with the Fissure as well as the Enchant Totem. It looks like he did opt to max out their Aftershock. The Aftershock is the reason why Earthshake is such a powerful hero, and why he provides such a massive amount of lockdown. If you stagger all 3 of his spells, and don't even include the stun time coming out from them, just off the back of Aftershock, that's 4.5 seconds of stun time. And so if you throw in the actual stun time you get from the Fissure, from the Echo Slam, and from the Enchant Totem, Earthshaker can lock down the team potentially for 6 to 7 seconds. And so he provides a massive amount of control, as well as damage, but the control is the real reason why you pick him up. And because Earthshaker can control these fights and make it very difficult for the enemy team to close the distance to try to pick off the Tinker, Tinker's just able to stand tall in these fights, throw as many combos as possible, and then blink on out of there. And so the E-Blade also does a huge amount of work, because you can actually use it defensively against a Lifestealer. And the way to counter a Lifestealer is to get early Ghost Scepters and early 4-stars up on your support heroes. Because the power of Lifestealer is how good he is at hitting people. You run in, he's got a built-in snare, so you're guaranteed time on target. So you're guaranteed all these free hits in. If you're able to interrupt that and wait out the open wound, then Lifestealer, he's actually got no way to stick to targets. He's got high mobility with the phase drum, but if you're able to E-Blade him up and wait out the rage, Lifestealer tapers as a carry. It's the reason why you want to end the game as quickly as possible with a Lifestealer. If the game does go late, if you've got him seeing him out of farm, then he can pass as a carry. But at that stage, almost any semi-carry in the game could do the exact same thing. But because a huge amount of his teamfight impact is centered around those 6 seconds when he has rage up, if you're guaranteed to kill a target within the duration of rage, you're in a good position for these fights. If you're able to kite the Lifestealer, wait out the rage, he's actually a fairly fragile hero, because he's not going to be building armor anytime soon. At the moment, the only armor boosting item he has is the Armor Medigian. And so the March Machine's going to be dealing a huge amount of damage to him. Since as a melee hero, he's forced to eat the March every single time. And March, since it does universal damage, it doesn't give a damn about the rage, it doesn't give a damn about magic resistance or magic immunity. It deals both physical and magic damage at the same time, so it'll actually continue to damage him through whatever spell he goes, whatever item he opts to go through. Lifestealer probably going to be opting for, he could go for a Molnir. It's the most cost efficient item on a lot of heroes. Because if their armor value is above 10, Molnir will for single target DPS, will out DPS the Daedalus as well as the MKB. If their armor is below 10, then the Daedalus and the MKB do a lot more damage. But of course, the thing that you have to keep in mind with the Molnir is it's also dealing AoE damage. And so just off the back of a single target DPS, Molnir does a lot more. But in terms of teamfight contribution as well, with that Static Storm buff, as well as lightning procs, you're dealing obscene amounts of damage. So on ranged heroes, Molnir is effectively like buying a Battle Fury. Because even though you're not getting cleave with the lightning procs, especially on a hero like a Miranda that's guaranteed to get a huge amount of shots in because of how elusive and how mobile she is, it can actually turn the tide. Because it doesn't matter who you're hitting, the lightning procs will be to hit their backline heroes and bring them down as well. And so Brewmaster opting for Treads to go for as much survivability as possible to guarantee that if he does get called out of the Orc of Malevolence, he's able to keep himself alive long enough to get that split off. And so he's actually opted for a lot of points in stats, only at 1 point up in the Drunken Haze. He knows that against a Lifestealer, Haze isn't going to be worth all too much, because he can purge it off with the Rage, and within those, as the 6 seconds of Rage, Naix will probably be able to kill, if not you, then the rest of your team. Or at least pick off one hero. And so early points in the Haze isn't going to be too effective, because the only other physical DPS is the Nature's Prophet, so I suppose he could go for points on that. But JYU, he's opting instead to stay alive for as long as possible, to ensure he gets the split off. Because the Brewmaster, he starts to taper off past the 35-minute mark, because that's the point where you can actually stand your ground against the Brewlings and just kill them before they're able to do their thing. And since Naix is an inbuilt BKB, he's a great counter pick to the Brewmaster. Since Brewmaster, he can't control them the way he can control other carries. He can't snare his attack speed with a clap, he can't rely on the mischance from the Drunken Haze, and he sure as hell can't lock him down once he's got that split off with the Cyclone or with the Boulder. And so Naix, a good pickup in this case, because they know that if they try to fight early against a Brewmaster and against an Elder Titan, it's not going to end well for them. The Silence of the Global Silence should be able to win them these, should be able to guarantee that they're able to win these fights if they initiate on them. And so long as, if you don't catch out Febby, all he has to do is press out when you go in. If he's good enough with his reflexes, when the Burst Strike, Blink Burst Strike comes out from Yosin, you immediately pop Global Silence and you stand and turn if you're able, if they don't catch out Febby. If they do catch out Febby, it's a completely different story. Since the Sand King, his Burst Strike's fast enough that you shouldn't be able to react in time with the Global Silence, and with the way Yosin's been playing him, he's been absolutely on point. He hasn't given them a window of opportunity to really catch him out with the Global Silence, and even though he hasn't gotten off a single successful Epicenter, or at least any that I've seen so far. He did get one off in the mid lane, but that was against the splitted Pandarean Brewmaster, and so the Epicenter was effectively wasted. He knows that he can't really go for Epicenters until Febby's dead, because otherwise, with the Global Silence, he'll immediately cancel it. And so a way to counteract that is Sand King, he's going to either have to go for a BKB, or he can actually opt to even go for something like a Yule Scepter, since, similar to Merlini with the Yule Scepter up on him, when you're cycloned up in the air, once you get caught with the Global Silence, you cyclone yourself up, and when you drop back down, it will purge off all debuffs on you. And so it's a very effective way to be able to deal with the Global Silence, as well as the Last Word. But on the Death Prophet, it's already a good item, so it's just made a good item a lot better. And it looks like Death Prophet going to be the pipe carrier from his team for the look of it, with that casual Planeswalker's Cloak, so Bloodstone now up on him. And so I got something flying up to him in the courier. Yeah, there we go. So we've got the pipe inside, as well as what looks like a Buckler. So a Buckler's going to be flying up to somebody as well, so somebody is doubling back to who they go for that mech. Will be interesting to see who is going for that. Looks like it's going to be Purge. Sorry, not Purge, Blitz. I keep making that mistake. Purge is his waifu. Blitz is the player. There we go. So JYU with that double damage rune, smacking on that tattoo, doing a lot of slow siege with Febby, backing him up. Febby actually should be backing up a bit in case if Yosin goes for a Burrow Strike, because he can catch out both of them. And if there's a Naix bomb available, he immediately jumps out, should be able to kill Febby. But it looks like Zephyr, they're not going to defend this. They're actually looking to trade tattoos on their own. But when you try to trade against a Tinker, you're in for a pretty bad time. Because with the March spam, especially since you don't have a way to catch Tinker when he's out in the trees, they're not really too sure why Zephyr chose to not defend that tattoo and go for that split push. That split push is never going to succeed. If they went in on the bot lane, they could have tried to pick him off. But I suppose Zephyr Dota, they don't want to fight against the superior team fighting lineup of PKF until they reach the point of no return with their gold. But in terms of experience, we're about 5,000 experience lead in favor of Zephyr, and the gold lead actually is starting to now go in favor of PKF. It's only a 6,000 gold lead. Consider the fact that 4,000 of their gold is actually effectively wasted in the hands of Midas's. In terms of net worth, the Lifestealer as well as the Nature's Prophet, they're not as far ahead as you'd think. JYU is actually on par with the Nature's Prophet, and Jesus Stick, while he is actually very underfarmed, he all he has to do is stay alive in these fights. The natural order alone is enough reason to pick the Elder Titan. Forget the Splitter, forget the Echo Storm, just the natural order is going to be absolutely tear through Zephyr Dota, especially since they can't rely on the armor to save their life. Well, I say that, JYU use the BKB to ensure the split, turn around over Merlin. Merlin means Cyclones himself off, to be able to purge off the Global Suns. He's got the Exorcism up, but he's being burned down by MP. MP actually should be able to bring down the Dagon as well as the laser. Looks like Corey actually did pick up the Aegis of the Immortal. Merlin did commit suicide, so the Cyclone's up on Corey as it looks like his Rage is on cooldown. Yosin finally gets a good Epicenter off, brings down Febby. The Clap as well as the E-Blade Dagon combination coming out from MP brings him down. But he's actually out of mana right now. He blinks out and he's running for the hills. As Zephyr Dota able to turn this, they kill 3 in exchange for 2, and they still have the Aegis of the Immortal up on Corey. And so Tinker, he was the only reason they were able to turn that. He got 2 kills. But because the amount of farm coming up from there, Yosin, he used his Epicenter on one target, on Febby, once the Global Suns had worn off, because he knew that he couldn't use it prior. And Zephyr Dota, they're actually doing very well. Because PKF, this is the inherent weakness of the Tinker pickup. But while I say that, he goes in on Corey, and Corey actually could be taking a fall right now. MP, he's got the blink available, he's rearming. He could decide to go in for the kill and try to hunt him down. He's playing it safe, because he doesn't know who's waiting in the trees. There's actually no vision available for either team. And so the sports have gone kind of lax with their wards. I suppose because Blitz has been going for his mech. Now he's finished it, so he's picked up wards again. Lack of wards coming out, and I think it's due to the fact that they've got a gem up on, I believe Febby had a gem, but he did die. And so they're throwing a gem over to Yosin. So Yosin's now got a gem. Sand King, not the greatest gem carrier, but he's definitely not too bad either, because he can reposition himself with the Blink or with the Bar Strike. The best gem carriers are heroes like the Venomancer or the Visage that don't have to put themselves at risk. Because Venomancer, you just drop a sentry, you get in range with the gem, so you have vision of the ward, you drop your Venomous ward up there, and the wards can clear up the ward without putting yourself in risk. And Visage, he can do the exact same thing, but he's got the added benefit of permanently having flying vision with the familiars there. And so they're fantastic gem carriers, because you're guaranteed that there's no safe haven for you. You are going to find the wards wherever they are. Yosin, Sand King's a good gem carrier in the sense that he's very difficult to kill, because you have it's like a casual Planeswalker's Cloak, brought up in the Sand King. Because you have the Destroying ability coming out from the Sandstorm, the Burrow Strike, and the Blink Dagger, Sand King is actually a surprisingly difficult hero to bring down. Sky, actually camping bot with MP, he's got his own Blink Dagger as well as a 4-star. And so 4-stars are coming online for PKF. They've got one up on Jesus Stick, one up on Sky, and Febby, looks like he actually went for the Aghanim Scepter, so he's not going to be having his anytime soon. But Silence, he's effectively acting as a 4th core now. With that Global Silence, with the Aghanim Scepter upgrade, and with the amount of damage he deals with his glaives, just because a good chunk of its skill there is actually going on MP. Global Silence has been forced, but MP should be taken full. The Abyssal Blade being used to bash him in. He actually stabs the ground, turns around, blows up Sexy Bamboo. And Corey does finally bring him down in the end. Actually, looks like Naix's Prophet brought him down. Looks like... Oh, the Orchid and Levin's Burn brought him down. So Corey, now call out position on the last word, as well as the Enchant Tone and the Fissure. JYU pins him down. And the Aegis has been popped. He might be able to make it out in time since he's got the Rage, so he can Rage TP. He actually doesn't have a TP. You'll have to be used up on Merlini. Earthsplitter flies out, actually completely whiffs. As it looks like Corey, no, never mind, they used to bring down Corey. Tinker's now brought back into that fight. Brought down Merlini as well, so a lot of trades happening back and forth. PKF, they have the advantage at the moment. But if MP is to die because he bought back, that could potentially be high ground. And so Tinker has to play very cautiously for the next 5 minutes. He can't afford to let himself be killed. But in terms of experience and net worth, with those 3 kills and the Aegis, 7,500 experience lead. Zephyr, they've been ahead almost since the very beginning of the game. They haven't really lost much of their experience lead because they've got 4 heroes effectively farming as opposed to just 1. 8,000 gold lead, so still maintained the gold lead. But because Tinker is so effective at being able to instantly kill off their backline heroes, their frontline heroes, once the Rage wears off, once the BKB starts to come off, and Burn leading, he's not going to be going for a BKB anytime soon. Looks like he's got the Pipe of Insight to provide a bit more survivability. Would have maybe preferred something like a BKB up on him. I guess it's to ensure that his teammates have a lot more survivability, but Death Prophet, you're a priority target. You want to make sure that you stay alive in these engagements. The rest of your team, they can still defend for themselves. Because if you go for a pipe up on the Death Prophet, you're losing out on a lot of your late game. And Death Prophet, like the Brewmaster, she's a hero that's designed to win the game in the first 35 minutes. Because after that point, you start to plateau. Death Prophet at this point, Merlini, he is being blown apart by the Tinker, even with that pipe. But the Bloodstone charges ensure that he's back into the fray very early on. And so the way to counteract Death Prophet's intrinsic weakness, with her plateauing off of all abilities, eventually reaching a point where they're no longer as effective as they were in the first 35 minutes, is you just get enough gold that you're constantly going to be able to be present in these fights. So Shiva's Guard or Refresher Orb, usually very common pickups in the Death Prophet, since the biggest counter to the Death Prophet is to make her waste her Exorcism, and then once her Exorcism's gone, then you group up and take a tower. So the Refresher Orb ensures that you can never catch her without the Exorcism, and so that's the advantage of that. In this case, looks like Merlini, he's actually kind of tapped out at this point. He could probably look to sell the drum, and he could always look to sell his face boots and pick up a Boots of Travels later on. But the Drumstone Drone's pickup, not really the greatest pickup. It didn't really give him enough mid-game impetus, especially since they opted for a lot of greed. I suppose the rationale for it is to ensure that Merlini doesn't die to one combo from Tinker, because it gives him enough stats. It also gives you a lot of chasing capability. Would have preferred the earlier Yule Scepter, because it's saving you an item slot. Because the drums, while it did give you a fair amount of benefit in the mid game, while your 2 other cores were farming. Now, Sexy Bambo does catch out MP, so he's supposed to rely on him to be the catch up Tinker. He does E-Blade up Sexy Bambo, but that's worn off, and now he's going to be stun locked down by Corey. And Sexy Bambo, good counter pick with the Naix Prophet, because you've got that global Naix bomb. So Zephyr Dota, some unorthodox plays coming up from them. The Nature Prophet can work as a counter Tinker because because Tinker has so many spots that he's forced to Blitz Splinter. While they say that, Yosin gets caught out with the Global Silence. Looks like Split's flying as well. So Drunken Brawler caught up on him. Merlini pops the X's and pops the Pipe, and they stand their ground. Echo Stomp's being used over on Yosin. Merlini leading the charge. Looks like the Earth Panda's the only one left. There's Wind Panda. Cyclone's up Merlini. Disruption being used to interrupt that TP. Coming out from Febby. Febby standing his ground, but he's going to take a fall very quickly. Ancestral Spirit's being used. Yosin catches out Sky. Great plays coming out from the Sand King. And Sky immediately forces himself up and TPs himself back home. So he should be able to make it himself out of there. Nature's Prophet can be used to hunt Tinker, as I was saying before, because if you play a lot of games against Tinker, you realize that Tinker, he has a set number of spots that he's going to blink to immediately once you shift use that blink. And so if you know where he's going to be blinking into, Nature's Prophet could TP in, drop the Sprout because it provides flying vision. And if you're on top of him or near enough that the Sprout can clear out the trees, then the nice bombs can come out for Corey. Zephyr Dota, they're in a very good position, especially with Tinker now without buyback. That should be a set of racks going in favor of Zephyr Dota. They don't have the ultimate to be able to defend this. They've got the Echo Stomp, the Echo Slam, sorry, as well as the Earth Split, but it's not going to be enough. Yosin catches out JYU, he's tanky enough to be able to outlast. He's caught out the Grave Chill as well. And while I said that, Sexy Bambo, nibbling away at the Tier 2, it's a great recognition coming up for Zephyr Dota, because they know that with those 3 heroes on their own, they can take a set of racks. They don't necessarily need Sexy Bambo there, so you might as well go for as much as possible. But while I said that, this defense is coming out. The Echo Stomp does catch out Merlini. We've got the trains coming out, so a lot of slow siege happening. They want to ensure that they get the melee rack. So Yosin actually catches out JYU. Earth Split is flying. JYU pops the BKB. He was going to die with the Abyssal Blade Smash. And Corey, while he did eat that Earth Splitter, he's almost at full HP. We've got a buyback immediately coming up from them, and they have to hold on to their set of racks. And so with the Fisher as well as the Echo Stomp, they actually are able to hold this. I was very surprised. I was expecting them to at least be able to take the mid lane set of racks, or at least even the range racks, just based off their pushing power. But with the Echo Stomps and with the Fishes, good plays coming up from Sky and Jesus Stick to be able to delay it for as long as possible. It did cost them a buyback, but they're more than happy to expend that, because once they high ground is breached, the advantage of Tinker tapers off. Because the advantage of the defender when you're trying to breach high ground is you have no idea where the hell they are. The only way to get vision is to place a ward up, and so a lot of teams, if they do see you spawning a ward, they're going to drop a sentry ward to counter that. And if you have no idea where the Tinker is, because Tinker's got that blink tech, he can always play so far behind, he'll be hanging around here, throwing out that march, the march is reaching around this area, and then he's going to be blinking himself immediately out to ensure that you can't pick him off. And if you stack enough marches, it's difficult to try to breach high ground against the Tinker, and so you can use that to try to drag out the game for as long as possible. Sexy Bambo going in for a gank attempt. He's got a blink dagger up, so Nature's Prophet, one rat hunting another. Oh, the irony. And with that blink dagger up, his sole intent is to be able to catch out Tinker, especially with Corey up inside him. Looks like he's actually opting to go for a few more points up into Sprout. You usually only see 1 point in the Sprout, and then you invest all those points in the stats. Looks like Sexy Bambo, now that he's got enough points in stats, he's going instead deciding to invest more into the Sprout. Sprout is a very powerful snare you can use to be able to catch people up. While I say that, Sexy Bambo, immediately he knows he's going to be going in there. So he catches out MP, catches out the Orcum Limbs, Global Silence being used. Corey, he does eat the E-Blade. Yule Scepter being used by Merlini. He's being the purge off the Ghost, Illusion, and the Ghost Scepter. And MP takes the falls. Corey smashes him down with the Abyssal Blade. Fairby standing his ground up against Corey. The Earth Splitter flies. It actually should be the catcher. Corey actually infests himself just in time. Echo Stomp being used. Merlini's being caught out with the Echo Slam. And he is burned down by Tinker. So Tinker bought back for this. His buyback is off cooldown now. Missiles flying out back and forth. We actually got the last one being used on the Illusion. Fairby standing his ground. And he does bring down Blitz. Epicenter flying out from Yosin. Yosin's got Varustra coming up collaboration, so MP actually takes the fall. And that's a critical kill going in favor of Zephyr Dota. They now no longer can try to defend high ground. Fairby standing his ground. The Echo Stomp actually saves the rest of his team, and they do get a kill up on Sexy Bambo, just off the back of that Fisher, as well as the Echo Stomp combination. And Yosin, he's actually caught out with no mana. He does take a fall. Sexy Bambo. PKF, they're holding this. I don't know how they're able to do so. That Fisher and that Echo Stomp completely turned that, as well, able to bring down, I believe it was Corey on the back line, and then Yosin was called out, as he had no place to go but up. So great plays coming out from the Jesus Stick with those Echo Stomps and Sky being able to Fisher block him in. It's the power of the Earthshakers. He's always going to be relevant. But while I say that, Sexy Bambo comes in, should be able to bring down Fabi one more right click. They have the Orchid debuff up on him as well, so the amplification damage will be enough. Sheep Stick now up on him, so Tinker's going to be having a very difficult time. If you thought the Orchid was bad, now the Orchid and the 3.5 second hex on top of the Abyssal Blade coming out from Corey, going to be very difficult. But just off the back of how well Jesus Stick and Sky have been playing, they're able to hold on to high ground. Even though Tinker's dead without buyback, they're still able to do this. And so that's the power of the Earthshaker, as well as in conjunction with the Elder Titan. Because unless you have a BKB, the Echo Stomp is going to be able to catch you out. And the only hero that, I mean, Nature's Prophet doesn't want to go for BKB unless he absolutely has to. He does have one up. But because the rest of his team, they don't have BKBs up, Lifestealer actually opted for MKB to ensure that the Drunken Haze or the Drunken Brawler won't be any hindrance to him. So good recognition coming up from him. Because Merlini isn't going to be going for a BKB anytime, so he's actually going for harder to rust. So his job is just to stay alive for as long as possible, provide that utility. Should he die with the Bloodstone charges, he will be back into the fray a lot earlier, and you are providing that heal. And so Bloodstone in this game, because you know the game is going to be going late, and because you know it's going to be these drawn-out fights against the Tinker, you want to ensure that your team is able to stay alive, especially since with the mech up on Blitz as well. Blitz looks like he's going for his own sheepstick. And so Zephyr Dota, they're planning for the late game, and that's been their plan from the very beginning. Once they realized that Tinker was in that tri-lane, and that they had a mid lane Brewmaster to try to give them that mid game impetus to ensure that Tinker would find his farm, they know that if they try to go for these early engagements, try to breach high ground against Tinker before they were ready, Tinker can drag out the game indefinitely then. Because they don't have enough farm, they don't have enough experience to be able to stand through the march and be able to slow siege that tower down. And with the Pandarean Brewmaster, the teamfight advantage is always going to be in PK's favor if they're the defender. Because you've got the March spam, you've got the Echo Stomp spam. If you get one good Echo Stomp, JY, you can blink and clap, set up a fight off the back of that. So good recognition coming up from Zephyr, playing it for the long haul, because they know that if they get enough farm up on their cores, and they do have it now, Corey actually has more net worth than Tinker. And Tinker, once the Dagon 5 E-Blade combo comes up, in terms of damage potential, he's tapped out. So now he's going for a utility. So he's going for a sheepstick of his own to be try to provide that lockdown. Blitz, actually let's get caught by JW. Fisher blocked him whilst the Echo Stomp being used. It's a lot of hatred, and it looks like Febby is able to bring him down. So 24 intelligence he's still on him. With that 4 staff now available, they're using everything they can to try to kite out Corey during the duration of his rage. Once that rage wears off, if they haven't killed MP should be able to bring down Corey with the E-Blade Dagon spam, with the rearm. Since the added advantage of the E-Blade is it disarms you. And since it makes you go into the ethereal form, not only do you have to go set the buff for yourself, but you're also disarming their carry. And so it works very well, since Zephyr, they only have 2 forms of physical DPS. They've got Sexy Bambo, as well as Corey, but the majority of it's going to be coming up from Corey. Sexy Bambo's there to ensure Corey gets hits in. That's why he's carrying the Blink Dagger. That's why he's always got Corey up inside him, to ensure that when Tinker goes in, he can catch him at the sprout, provide that flying vision, pick him outside the base, because it's so much more difficult to try to kill Tinker inside the base. When he's defending from his base, because it forces you to have to overcommit and overextend to be able to try to catch him out. And Sexy Bambo playing it very patient. They know that they've got enough farm. Lifesteal's actually pretty much maxed out at this point. If he goes for Boots of Travel, he can maybe go for one more item, maybe look to sell his Midas. But in terms of gold you need, in terms of the core items, he's got enough damage, he's got enough lockdown to be able to ensure that they should be able to win this next engagement. And so they don't necessarily need him to be able to find another item yet. They want to instead go for a pick-off on Tinker, because once you kill Tinker, especially Tinker without buyback, since I don't think he's got buyback this time around, it'll be coming off cooldown in about a minute and a half, you've got that window of opportunity to try to breach high ground. Looks like Corey actually did go for a BKB to ensure that there's no chance for them to kill him. And with that 10-second BKB, Lifesteal has now got 16 seconds of Magic Immunity, and I believe he's only got about 3-second downtime before his next rage comes off. And so that 10-second BKB, it's an absolutely critical timing window for Zephyr. BKB and Blink are the 2 most timing specific items in the game. That first fight, when you have a 10-second BKB and the enemy team are not aware of it, you are almost guaranteed to be able to win that fight. It's very difficult to win a fight. And into Lifesteal has got 16 seconds of Magic Immunity. He doesn't give a damn about anything to do. They don't really have many spells that can control him through that BKB. They don't have the Viper or the Viper Strike. They don't have the Static Link coming out from the Razor. They don't have any of that because those heroes have been banned out. And so the only ability they have that does go through the BKB or the Rage is going to be the Earth Splitter as well as the Echo Slam. But the Echo Slam, I believe, is just going to be the damage that comes out. JY, you catch that Blitz, but Blitz immediately force himself out. JY, you've got the Blink Dagger available, but it's on cooldown for now, so he's not able to commit for that kill. Sexy Bambo pushing out all the lanes, using the Wrath of Nature. We've got now an Aegis up on Corey, and so you thought it was difficult before trying to bring down Lifesteal. Now with that Aegis Immortal, and with that BKB up, he doesn't have to expend the BKB the first time. And so with it up, with his first life, because he's got that guaranteed reincarnate, he could go absolutely ham. Once he dies, if they are able to bring him down, then he reincarnates, then he pops his BKB, because all of their spells are on cooldown. They've got nothing to be able to deal with him at that point, and then he just runs around smacking you. And so Lifesteal got 3k up on him. Looks like him and Sexy Bambo do have buyback up. Merlini as well. Looks like he actually should almost have his hard up. Yeah, there we go. He's about 100 gold off from his harder to Rask. Sand King going for his own BKB, because they know that's the only way they can stand tall against the Tinkers. Once those BKBs come online, they've got the 10-second BKB up on Yosin as well as on Corey. Sexy Bambo, I believe he's got a 7-second BKB up on them. Yeah, so they should be able to use that. So they're waiting for the next set of items. They might want to try to pick off the Tattoo Tower, as it ensures they can fight outside. They can fight Tinker outside the base, and that's where MP has his weakness. If you're fighting outside the base, you don't have the luxury of being a spam out March from a safe position. If you're spamming out March right now, you can get called out, especially if Nature's Prophet Sexy Bambo is hunting the trees. So Sexy Bambo playing like a VC, he's coming from the trees, playing very patient because he knows that all he has to do is assassinate Tinker, and they could use that to be able to try to turn the game around. So very action-heavy game. Looks like we've got just above a kill a minute, but a lot of strategic positioning coming up from both teams. I've actually got a highly unconventional observable place. I didn't even know you could place a ward there. I guess you learn something new every day. I'm not actually too certain if that provides you flying vision. If it does provide you flying vision, the reason why you're placing that ward there is to spot out Sexy Bambo when he TP's in. And so it's to ensure that MP can farm this lane. So this is something that this is the first time I've ever seen this, and if it is working as intended, if it is providing flying vision, that's absolutely fantastic. Because if they do pick off Sexy Bambo and kill him, PKF, even though they're playing from behind in terms of gold, if they catch out Zephyr without buyback, or if they do kill them, they're going to be able to drag the game out for another 5 minutes because they don't want to commit without buyback. Because if they get wiped without buyback, even though PKF are behind, they still can't go in and try and take their set of racks. Tinker can push out all 3 lanes at once just by BOTing and spamming out that much, and so they do have a lot of comeback potential available for PKF, especially since neither team has taken a set of racks. And so they've got that advantage. Actually, both teams are almost identical in terms of towers. The only advantage over the Zephyr is they've got that tier 3 gone. So Merlini leading the charge. He's got the hard Jurassic, got 3.5k HP up, as well as the pipe. He should be a tank. 3 to 4 rearms coming up from the Tinker. I don't think they'll have enough damage, but they're actually going on Sexy Bambo. JYU comes in. Global Sun's being used as well. Sexy Bambo pops his BKB. Looks like Corey's also got his BKB online. He's got the Aegis Molotov. He actually stands his ground. He kills JYU inside his own primal split. Merlini, you'll sceptering himself up to be able to purge off the silence as well as the last word. Corey going ham up on Jesus Stick. He eats the Dagon E-Blade combo as well as the last one. Actually should be enough with the laser coming in. Blitz gets caught out with the 1 E-Blade. Even without the Dagon, it's enough to bring him down. Now the Dagon comes online. Corey, he has reincarnated now. Merlini, his Exton will be wearing off. The 4 staff's doing work. Febby juking out Corey. The Rage is going to be wearing off cooldown. He does have the BKB, and I don't think they know this. That could be the turnaround potential. Yosin standing towards the BKB. JYU actually bought back for that. Echo Storm catches out 3. And JYU, he doesn't have the primal split available. He's just going to stand his ground and just do as much right click damage as possible. Corey, he's got the Rage coming off cooldown and the BKB we used. Rage is off cooldown now. So actually, they can't touch him at this point. They're forced to run away. MP is still alive, though. He's just barely able to keep himself alive. Actually, Sexy Bambo trying to pick him off. He isn't able to close the distance as the Sprout actually blocks him in. And great Fissure coming up from Sky, ensuring they can't continue the chase. And so PKF, even though it did cost them a buyback, they were able to hold that tier 2. And that actually, in terms of teamfight potential, I believe it actually came out on top of that, because all it really cost them was a buyback. And in exchange for that, they were able to burn off the Aegis as well as a 10-second BKB. They also blew the 10-second BKB for Yosin. And so Zephyr, despite the immense gold lead, because of how well PKF have been playing, because of their backline heroes, the Elder Titan, the Febby, as well as Sky, have been doing so well to control and kite out the Lifestealer. This is the inherent weakness of the Lifestealer. It's why you want to end the game ASAP, is once the 4 staffs come online, once the Ghost Scepters come online, your one job as a hero is to be able to hit people. If you can't hit people, you're essentially a giant melee creep. And the rest of your team, they are entirely dependent on you to be able to go for these kills. Sexy Bambo, he can try to go for a lot of pick-off power. He actually was forced to buy back for that, so even further going in favor of PKF. Sexy Bambo, he's doing a lot of damage in these engagements, but he can't stand tall against the Tinker. Tinker will be able to blow him apart once the BKB wears off. And because Yosin's been using these BKB charges very aggressively, he's only got 2 more charges before it drops down to 4 seconds. Once it's a 4 second BKB, they should be able to stay alive long enough, being able to drag out these fights with the Fissure blocks as well as the Echo Stone, to be able to wait out the BKB. And once the BKB wears off for Sexy Bambo, he's going to die to 2 combos coming out from MP. Actually, it could even be 1 combo. They do got him now. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get the Hex off in time. So Sexy Bambo, a bit slow with the fingers there. Yosin farming up the creep wave using the Sandstorm, opting for no points in the Caustic Finale because he knows that his sole job is to stay alive for as long as possible. And so this is something that a lot of pro players like to go for. If you're playing Sanking against a burst heavy lineup, especially, they've even got a casual Planeswalker's Cloak to ensure that they don't die to 1 combo coming up from Tinker. So you're trying to make Tinker expand as many combos as possible to bring you down, because that increases the likelihood of your team going to win. Because Tinker, especially a Tinker that if he's going for the E-Blade Dagon build, he relies on killing you in 1 combo to be able to start a fight 4v5. He still can do that to Blitz. Blitz, unfortunately, he's the one that's drew the short straw. He is still farming very ambitiously towards his Sheep Stick, but until that comes online, MP can still style all over him. The 1-2 punch coming out from the E-Blade as well as the Dagon should be able to instantly pop him in these fights. And without a Shadow Demon, you do lose a fair amount of teamfight potential. The Shadow Demon, the reason why he's so powerful as a support hero is he's always relevant. The Disruption is one of the best defensive abilities in the game, because it's a get-out-of-jail-free card if your heroes happen to get caught out of position. Similar to the Vengeful Spirit swap, it ensures that they can't kill a priority target when they want to. It forces them to stick around for 2.5 more seconds. Similar to a Shallow Grave, it gives you that bailout potential. And so you could use that defensively. to be able to help out your teammates, which is the way you should be using it at this point, because unless you catch a hero completely out of position on his own, you don't want to be using the disruption aggressively, since it will give Tinker enough time to be able to blink himself out if his blink is already halfway off cooldown, with a 3-second cooldown coming on. So it can guarantee a blink out for him. It could also guarantee a rearm if you're not able to focus enough. The rest of his team is able to run in and create space for him. And MP immediately goes in for the BOT, but backs himself out. A Sexy Bambo, good recognition coming up from him. Sexy Bambo immediately went to try to hunt him down. So he's actually fainting, because he knows that with Sexy Bambo going bot, there's a 15-second window where he can't try to pick him off now. MP, he's still hanging very close though. Sky, he's there to bodyguard him. Secret Service coming up from Sky. His sole job is to keep Tinker alive for as long as possible. They do go on. Global Silence has been used. MP could be taken full. There's not turned into a pig. He ghost steps himself up. Looks like he E-bladed a creep from the look of it to ensure that he can try to get that off. Cyclone be used by Mooney to push off the ghost form, and he is able to bring him down. Sky now coming. Febby comes in as well as Jesus Stick. Jesus Stick goes in with the Stomp. Does catch our Sexy Member. Earth Splitter flies, and he should be able to bring him down. Split flies as well. Corey eats the latter end of the Earth Splitter, but he's standing his ground against the Broodlings. He actually catches out Jesus Stick. Jesus Stick. Checkmate. Atheist. Where is your god now? He takes a fall. Korean Jesus ain't got time for your problems. Yosin, he has cleaned up by the Echo Stomp coming up from Sky. Sky comes with the Enchant Totem. The Dagon E-Blade combo coming from MP as he bought back in that fight. Merlini is now a pig, and looks like Team PKF, they're hungry for bacon. They're going to bring him down. The Exorcism doing as much damage as possible. You'll cyclone himself out to drag it out for as long as possible. But he should be taking a fall. Fissure coming out from Sky. And with the bait coming out from MP, they're able to wipe that fight. And they've got 3 buybacks. They've actually got 2 buybacks available coming out from Zephyr. Blitz sure as hell doesn't want to buy back unless he absolutely needs to. And there's actually no point in him buying back on his own, because you need the rest of his team. And so they've got this window of opportunity to try to push down the bot lane. While that happens, MP pushes out top, because there's still a tier 2 tower left alive in the top lane. And once that tier 2 tower is gone, the last bastion of map control outside their base is gone for them. And Zephyr Dota have only got 1 ward up. Actually looks like, in terms of map control, PKF, they don't have any wards up. They've only got... Zephyr only has 1 ward up as well. That's about to wear off. It's due to the fact that there is a gem on deck with Yosin. He was able to use it very aggressively earlier. Febby's now got that gem, and so he's going to start to starve them out of control. But they really do need to start dropping these wards aggressively to go for these pick-offs. But I suppose, considering the only hero they have to pick off for Zephyr Dota, that all they have to do is pick off MP. And MP, because he's always going to be BOTing into creeps, you don't really need wards to deal with the Tinker, because you know exactly where he's going. I thought MP was actually going to juke low and then go high, since he could just simply rearm and BOT back up top, and that would have given a free wave of golden experience. But I suppose with Sky there, they decided to bait out that fight, especially as the rest of PKF were able to rotate. And Jesus Stick, the natural order provides such a massive amount of utility for the rest of his team, because it completely cuts through all the magic resistance that the additional magic resistance that Merlini's receiving from the pipe. And so Death Prophet, she's reached the point similar with JYU, over the Brewmaster. Both the Brewmaster and the Death Prophet, so both mid heroes for PKF and Zephyr, they have reached the point where they've diminished. They no longer have the same impact they had before, because they're past their expiration date. If you're not able to end the game the first 35 minutes with those heroes, or breach high ground, it becomes very difficult, because they've reached the point where they're plateaued. Brewmaster, if he goes in on Corey pops Rage, stands his ground, and can actually kill your Broodlings very quickly. And so he immediately loses to Fire Panda, which is the majority of his damage. The Wind Panda is very fragile, and with the gem available for both teams, they should be able to bring that down as well. And the Earth Panda is very slow. That's the biggest drawback of the Brewmasters. Why you want to clap before you split? It's because the Broodlings themselves are actually fairly slow. That's why Omni Knight can actually work as a bit of an unconventional counter to the Brewmaster. I know Omni Knight's not really picked up much in the competitive scene, but if he is used as a counter to the Brewmaster, because the Degen Aura applies a 2-second sticky debuff once you're out of the Degen Aura range, it controls the Broodlings very effectively. To Sexy Bambo, once again with Corey up inside him. Looks like in terms of net worth, MP was able to recover, but in terms of buybacks, he's bought back the most times in this game. And so the net worth graph, it still is going to be in favor of Corey, because he hasn't expended as much gold in terms of net worth, and looks like Corey going to be going for either a Sheepstick or a Lincoln Sphere. Both would have a lot of advantages. Since Lifestealer at this point, he doesn't need to build any more damage. He's got damage out the ass. All he needs to do is be able to hit people to be able to deal that damage, because they keep juking him. And so the Sheepstick will be able to provide you a lot of aggressive pickoff capability. It means that if Sexy Bambo immediately dies before he gets a sheep off, he could use that to control MP. Could also be seeing a Lincoln Sphere to ensure that he's able to block out at least the E-Blade coming up from him. Considering you can rearm it in 1 second, not going to be the greatest investment. You can use it on your teammates as well, but I don't really feel like that the Lincoln Sphere is going to be the greatest pickup. Whereas opposed to the Sheep, if you catch out MP, having 2 Sheepsticks and potentially 3 as Blitz is farming up his own, will provide you a massive amount of teamfight compared. Because the only hero that have to control these fights is the Tinker. The rest of his team, the other 4 heroes from PKF, their sole job is to keep Tinker alive for as long as possible to buy enough space so that he can do his thing. It's the biggest advantage and the biggest drawback of the Tinker. And JY, you actually get spotted by Shadow Poison coming up from Blitz. So Blitz is immediately stacking the Shadow Poison, catches him out with the Disruption, and they immediately withdraw. Merlini, his access and just wore off. JYU, he can't commit this because Blink Dagger has been broken. Does catch out a Haze over Bamboo as well as Blitz. We've got some much spam coming out from MP. And PKF, they're not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. They're going to try to take Roshan while they can. But Yossi comes in with a BKB as well as the Blink Barrow Strike. He's going to get burned down. The E-Blade's being used on his BKB form. Earthblade catches out too. Looks like Corey's now coming in with the BKB being used up. Silencer, Fabian was actually able to pick up the Aegis Team Immortal. And it looks like Sexy Bamboo took a fall. He does have buyback available. He's going to have to buyback and come in immediately if he wants to stand his ground. Sky, defensive E-Blade being used. Throws out a Fissure Block. And Corey gets blown apart by MP. Fantastic plays coming out from them. Fabi, with that Aegis Team Immortal, looks like the Aegis was burned off. But the fact that he was able to deny it, deprive it to the enemy team. Good plays coming out from PKF, and even though as Team Zephyr they still have the gold lead, it's so difficult for them to fight against the Tinker because they didn't shut him down, and so things are looking very difficult for Zephyr Dota to be able to recover. Because as I mentioned at the very start of the draft, Tinker, he is the single strongest late game carry in the game because he drags the game out to late game, and B, he has in terms of overall DPS, he out DPSs every other carry. With the E-Blade, Dagger, and 5 combination, and now with the Sheep Stick, he could, if he's left unchecked, he will destroy the entire team. And so, all PKF have to do is bodyguard the Tinker and be able to create as much space as possible so he can do his thing unmolested. Because MP, he can carry his team through. So Echo Storm as well as Fisher lands on Blitz. Blitz eats the last one as well as Curse on. A lot of hatred being used to ensure that he takes a fall. Immediate double buyback coming out. And PKF, they're getting the hell out of there. They don't want to stay too far. And Bamboo comes over at MP. 4-stop's being used to ensure that he's able to back off. They've got another 4-stop available. Fabi also 4-stops himself forward. Jesus Stick, he stands his ground. They're just trying to buy space to ensure that MP can try to get on out there. MP turn. He's got his combination available. He's rearming up. Does turn one into a pig. The Global Stance has one off. He turns on Sexy Bamboo. He knows he doesn't have buyback. They want to kill the heroes without buyback. Now Sky, he doesn't have the Echo Storm available. Looks like a Blink Barrow Strike Epicenter coming out from Yosef. He turns this. He kills MP. MP does have buyback. It looks like JYU also bought back. Sky caught in place with the Sprout. He's using the Ghost Scepter. Looks like that's what he used last time. Corey gets caught out with the Echo Storm. Merlini as well. Earthsplit's going to fly out. It actually might kill Corey if he's lucky. And it does. It does bring down Corey. Corey no longer has buyback. And PKF, if they choose to buy back right now, over on MP, they can try to take this fight. And they do. MP buys back. They're coming in. Sky, he's caught out by Yosin when he went in with the Barrow Strike as well as the Sandstorm. But Sexy Bamboo, he's left alone up against JY. He actually has a Diffusal Blade. He's using that to purge off the Ghost Scepters. Jesus Stick, he punches them down. Jesus Stick, not really feeling too merciful now. Turns, looks like he turned Merlini into a pig. And MP, once again, carves himself out of the rasher of bacon. And with no buyback available, the only hero that has buyback up now for Team Zephyr is Merlini. And looks like PKF, they might actually be able to take that first set of Rex this game. JYU with that Soul Caress as well. He can lead the charge, he can smack the tower, he doesn't really give a damn. He's got enough EHP from the armor coming in from the AC as well as from his Drunken Brawler. The tower's pretty much tickling him at this point. MP goes back, rearms back to the fountain, comes back in. He's not going to be providing too much damage with the Soul Caress aura, even though they don't necessarily have any dedicated pushing heroes. The Soul Caress aura ensures they're able to take a set of racks. They might actually even be able to take a tier 3 tower over the bottom lane before they're really driven out. They want to play very greedy. There we go. They're immediately going for it. They know that the range racks is the lowest priority racks. You get the melee racks, you go for the next lane, you try to take as much as possible. If they get 2 racks in, Zephyr Dota, it's very difficult for them to recover, if not impossible. When you're 1 racks down against the Tinker, because one lane's always pushing forward, it becomes very difficult. With 2 racks is down, it's almost impossible. They do finally clean up 2 sets of racks, and with the buyback, with the heroes coming out from Zephyr now finally respawning with no buyback available, they're able to drag it out. So Zephyr Dota, they thought they could win the late game if they dragged it out late, but the fact that they weren't able to apply any pressure on Tinker before he got the Boots of Travel and Blink Dagger could have been a bit of a mistake. But because Tinker was picked up so late in the draft, in the second picking phase, they didn't really have enough time or enough flexibility with that draft to be able to offer a Tinker counter. They didn't really have an effective lane for this Storm Spirit, especially with the lane lanes that he chosen picked up. This is the biggest weakness of the Lifestealer, is he wins when you're very far ahead. But in terms of net worth, he's now being outclassed. And in these fights, while he, even with the BKB and with the Rage, you kite them out. You've got 3 4-staffs available. You've got a Ghost Scepter up on the Earthshaker. You've also got the E-Blade up on MP, so it gives him a pseudo Ghost Scepter buff. But a Sheepstick now available for Merlini. Zephyr Dota, they really should be renaming themselves Sheepstick Dota from the way they've been playing. Blitz, he's actually farmed up a Hood of Defiance just to ensure he doesn't die to 1 combo. If the natural order is available with the Ancestral Spirit, I believe it's still going to be enough damage to kill him anyway. But Blitz, you can't fault him for trying. He's doing everything he can to try to stay alive in these engagements and just do his thing. Because he has to be able to be there to try to bail out the rest of his teammates. The Demonic Purge also going to be a great way for them to be able to try to pick off Tinker. Especially when he's in that ethereal form. Since you could purge it off with the Demonic Purge. We've got Sexy Bamboo, who actually bought the Diffusal Blade. And that's just to purge off the Ghost Scepter buff available for the Earthshakers, the Sky, as well as to provide that snare when they force stuff themselves out to ensure that Corey can close the distance. So Sexy Bambo, he's playing wingman for Corey. His sole job is to make sure Corey can keep hitting people. And Corey, if he is farming a Sheepstick, he should be able to do it on his own, but never mind, looks like he's going for a Lincoln Sphere. So yeah, Lincoln Sphere does provide you a fair amount of benefit, even though it will immediately be blown off with the 1 second rearm. The fact that it gives you that brief reprieve so you don't immediately die or immediately get sheeped could be enough benefit to go for it. So Lincoln Sphere is there just to try to ensure that he can try to pick off one of these heroes in the back line. But if you look at Jesus Sick, 1900 HP, 20 armor up him, Sky as well. This is a 5-position Earthshaker this game that has 2.3 HP and 22 armor. He's actually got more armor than the Lifestealer because he's got the Vladimir's Aura as well as the Assault Cuirass Aura. Actually, it looks like it's just the Assault Cuirass Aura. There's no Vladimir's offering available. So they don't even have the armor for that. It also looks like it's got a Veil of Discord. So Veil of Discord and the Natural Order. This is going to be absolutely sick, to quote Sven there. Elder Titan, with the Boost of Travel as well as the gem up on him. Jesus Stick, he's been doing a huge amount of work for his team. Him and Sky, they're the only reason why they haven't lost this game, because they've been able to drag out these fights for as long as possible. They've been able to wait out the Rage and the BKB coming out from Sexy Bambo as well as over on Corey. Once they wear off, they pop like pimples. So we now got a Bloodstone available for Tinker to ensure that he gets off a lot more rearms in the fight. So Bloodstone, on a lot of heroes, Bloodstone's seen as a snowballing item that you want to get ASAP. On Tinker, Bloodstone's an ultra luxury item that you pick when the game moves into past the 60-minute mark. Because it gives you enough mana and mana regen to be able to, and not have to rely on going back to base to be able to rearm. And Tinker, at this point, I believe he can get off about 5, 6, maybe even 7 combos using all of his abilities before he's actually out of mana. And so that could potentially be 3-4 heroes dead. JYU goes in, catches on Merlini's, Global Silence being used, the Yule Cyclone immediately poaches off, but the Refresh Orb is available. So Merlini caught up with the Double Cyclone, now turned into a pig. They are able to clean up the range racks. MP looks like he's being the priority target, but he's being forced up out. Febby, Bodyguard's never good, great Echo Slam coming out from Sky, turning it around on top with Jesus Stick as well. Corey, Lincoln Sphere now breaks, Febby's immediately stands ground, he gets Dagon E-bladed down. And they are able to take the range set of racks, but the only one left alive is Merlini. Merlini's fleeing for his life. He's caught up with the Drunken Haze. He turns around, throws a Grave Silence, and is able to keep himself alive for as long as possible. MP comes in, turns into a pig, and then just goes to town on him. We've got the E-Blade Dagon Shotgun combination. Shotgun shells are bad for your health. As MP proves, they bring him down, and with buyback available, I believe, no, they actually don't have buyback available on any of them. They could decide to just push top and push through mid and actually end the game. MP immediately pushing through the bot lane. So that way that the Super Size Me creeps will start hitting on the tier 4s. Tier 2 is up, so they decide to just go for the throne at this point. Go right for the Jugular, through the tier 4s. And we noticed that the Sand King, Yosin wasn't able to get his Epicenter off in that fight, even though he had cheese, even though he had a BKB, because the Refresher Orb counteracts the BKB. When you activate the BKB and you call out the Global Silence penetrates BKB. And so when you've got the Refresher Orb, you use the first Global Silence, they pop their BKBs and say, sweet, okay, now we can debuff that off, we can purge that off, but then you simply refresh that and pop it again. And so PKF, looks like the experience lead's finally gone in their hands. 8,000 experience lead, gold lead, still 5,000 gold lead in favor of Zephyr. That's an absolutely fantastic recovery coming up from PKF. Zephyr Dota, they thought they could take it to the late game, but really underestimating the power of MP up on that Tinker. They weren't able to shut him down at all. And it looks like Zephyr Dota do get knocked out by PKF, so that looks like that'll be it. We'll leave the results screen up for now. So there we go, that'll be it for now. And I'll try to replay cast a few more of the Korean Dota League games if there is enough interest, since I've got a ticket for it, so I can just occasionally cast in my own time. Or if there's enough interest, I might actually try to go on the live stream. I don't know if Spot TV will be okay with that, if that's kosher for me to do so, but if it's okay for me to do so, then yeah, I definitely will look to do so. So otherwise, thanks for listening, 49 signing out.